Tower defense and first-person shooters. An unlikely duo that once heard out loud you may think, that sounds good. And you'd be right, but the amount of games that fit in both of these categories are surprisingly scarce. But hey, I've got one, so let's check it out and see if it's any good. Sanctum. That might ring some bells for some of you, but for others, that dramatic pause was just awkward silence. Anyways, Sanctum is a tower defense first-person shooter, and honestly, one of the only ones I know of. That doesn't mean that it's bad. It's actually quite the opposite, which would be, let's see. Oh, okay. Good. It's good. Now, this game won't blow you away with its design, but it will make you have a good time with either solo or up to 4-player co-op. The premise is simple. You place down blocks to funnel the hordes of enemies through, and then place structures on top of those blocks to fire upon the enemies while they're helplessly dashing towards your core. All while you yourself have free range to use your weapons to help your towers kill, or more likely steal kills from them. Kill all the enemies in a wave to gain more resources to spend in between waves on towers, upgrading existing towers, or even your own weapons. This simple premise is carried through 3 major factors: the maps, the enemies, and the equipment or towers. The most interesting type of maps are the ones that split off in multiple directions towards your core. These really allow you to push the real estate of the map as you try to give yourself as much time to clear out the enemies. Enemies come in all shapes and sizes, literally. They're all unique from one another and require different strategies to take down. My favorite are the tall shielded enemies. I don't know what they're called, but these guys will block damage that isn't a headshot, but once they are headshot, their shields will go down for a short period. These are by far the most interesting enemy, as they require you to take the first shot against them so that your turrets can clean them up. Whether you're filling every block with level 1 Gatlings or doubling down on that one sniper tower, there's plenty of options for how you suit up your firepower. When you start up a fresh map, you'll be given the opportunity to pick from various weapons and towers, allowing you to customize which towers you want to rely on. There's a lot of really helpful buildables, but you can't take them all, so you're going to want to make sure you have a balanced set, but also a set that works well with the map that you're playing on. Except the mortars. Don't ever take the mortars. I know the mortars are cool, but trust me, I've tried to make them work and they just don't, so don't take the mortars. While I was playing Sanctum 1 to get the footage for this video, I couldn't help but notice that both the time and the game were just flying by. Yes, unfortunately, my biggest gripe with the original Sanctum is that there just isn't enough of it. I mean, granted, I don't have the DLC, which add around 7 maps between them, but I don't really feel like shelling out, and I feel like I had enough fun with what's here. But wait, there's more. There's actually a second Sanctum game that I wanted to take a look at as well. While the first game was a lot of fun, it could get a little repetitive after you've played the maps a few times. Sanctum 2 tries to remedy this by adding more. More of everything, more towers, more weapons, more maps. There's even perks and characters to choose from, adding to the player agency. The focus here is less on funneling enemies. You can still do that, but there's more nuance to the systems at play here. For starters, gone are the days of a single resource you spend on everything. Resources are still here, but you can only use it to buy towers and upgrade them. No longer can you purchase blocks with resources. This sounds like a small change, but this drastically changes how the game is played. Not only that, but you can only have a set number of towers, and the towers themselves are really expensive. So instead of loading up every single ounce of real estate on the map with turrets, now you have to be more careful about what you place and where you place it. To add to this, the maps have taken on some big changes. Maps are now less about offering huge plots of land to build whatever you want, and more about adding to the challenge. Some maps barely allow for manipulation of enemy paths and require you to be smart about what towers you bring and place. Others focus on more enemy paths and give you a lot of blocks to place, but also shorter maps overall with wider areas, forcing you to create a long path for the enemies and sprinkling your towers throughout. All of this, the perks, the characters, the weapons, the towers, the maps, it all comes together to make a far more complex and rich gameplay experience than the first Sanctum. But that doesn't mean it's better, it's just different. Where the first Sanctum sought to focus more on the tower defense side, Sanctum 2 focuses more on the gameplay, having the player be more active in combat. Both have their merits, but Sanctum 2 will probably find more favor with more players, since there's more player adaptation going on during the waves. For me, they're both a lot of fun, and it's kind of hard to pick a favorite. Sanctum 1 has the much bigger blocks, and by the end of a match, the map will be filled to the brim with all level of turrets and random garbage that I decide to put down. Sanctum 2, on the other hand, has more replay value, more things to unlock as you play the game and level up, and forces you to play more conservatively, ultimately resulting in a more challenging experience. They are both fantastic games, and they both fill a somewhat niche genre without one completely overshadowing the other. They're fun, they're cheap, they're co-op, and they will run on pretty much any PC nowadays. They are both worthy of their spot in the library.